Welcome to this week's video. Today we're talking about grief. And this is the place to be if you just are feeling all the feels and want some clarity and want some just affirmation that what's going on is legit. So I've got a split screen now. Let me pull up the grief cycle by Kubler-Ross, which is one of the leading experts on the 5 stages of grief. Let's pull that up. So there's 5 stages, so to speak. The first one, and these are in no real particular order. First one is denial. Basically, this is like, no way. This isn't what's happening. I'm not experiencing this. No, that's not what's going on. Like, you just disbelief is another way to look at it. 2 is anger. Just being right pissed off, right? Number 3 is bargaining, like saying, maybe if I had done this, then that wouldn't have happened. And I should have done this. And, like, what if this happens? Then maybe that'll. Number 4 is just straight depression or just sadness, just feeling sad, feeling shitty, just feeling all the feels. And then number 5 is acceptance. And I say that these are in no particular order because this is not like a linear thing. This is not a first you experience this, and then when you're done with that, you move on to this, and then you experience that, and then once it's done, you move. Like, it doesn't work like that. These are feelings and sensations that we experience in no particular order, no particular amount. We could start out in one area and jump over to another area and stay there for a while and then jump back to the area we were before and then leave there very quickly and jump over somewhere else. We could feel multiple of them at the same time. We could feel angry and depressed simultaneously. So that's the first thing, is just recognizing that these are in no particular order and there's no right way or correct way or normal way or typical way of experiencing any of those feelings or sensations. Now, how do each of these things look for you compared to how they look for him or her or me or anybody? There's some stereotypes about what to expect from each one of those 5 things, but everybody experiences them uniquely to themselves. So giving yourself like that gift of awareness and permission to know that whatever I'm experiencing is right for me, and it's okay that this is happening in the way that it is for my nervous system to process this, because that's a big part of what grieving is. It's moving through the pain of loss, and the physical body feels that on a physical level. So allowing yourself to experience whatever wants to move through you is really the key here. So not denying it, not avoiding, not distracting yourself. I mean, certainly distraction is a coping skill. And maybe there's times where you need to distract yourself, or you believe you need to distract yourself for the highest good of yourself and all involved based on the circumstances or situation at present. But that is not a long-term coping strategy, because that just buries down things. And when things are not addressed, whatever it may be, they will show back up in some way, shape, or form later. Grief fucking sucks because it's only happening when we experience some form of loss. This is being filmed in 2020 during the year of COVID, and there is an overarching feeling of grief for the entire globe, for every single person out there, you included. There's a loss of freedoms. There's a loss of normality. There's a loss of being able to plan for the future, like getting excited about things. There's a loss of loved ones due to the illness, the virus. There's a loss of money potentially and vacations and events that are planned. There's a loss of living in many ways. I was talking to a friend of mine just before this about like, this is not the time to get on dating apps, although I know people that are doing it. So for me, it doesn't feel like the right time. There is so much that we're losing this year. And we're losing it in some ways because we don't have a choice and because we have a choice. There's an intentionality that we are making to protect what's good. And that means some short-term discomfort for long-term pleasure. And there's some that we don't have control over. Now, grief isn't a pleasurable emotion. It doesn't feel like an orgasm. It doesn't feel like eating a mouthful of like your favorite dessert. It doesn't feel like seeing a new movie that you've been waiting to watch. It's painful. And we might want to avoid or be done with it. And for that, I say I understand. Because it doesn't always make sense why or when or how those feelings of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance flow in and out. I was chatting with a friend the other day whose parent died. And one of the things that they expressed to me was they really wrestled with, when am I allowed to be happy again? And that's a very honest and profound and healthy, I don't know if that's the right word, but way to look at what you're experiencing. When I lost my cat, Cow, I completely checked out from the world for like a month. Not, I say completely, it felt like completely, but the only areas of my life that I checked in and I was like actively engaged in was my clients, my mentorship clients that I was doing coaching and healing work with. I showed up for the calls and for when they reached out for support, but I was not building relationships or actively connecting with people or growing my business or doing much. I even stayed away from my house. I went and stayed with my parents for about a month and just allowed myself to receive and to be cared for by loved ones. And I can remember there was one day towards the end of that month that I stayed there when I finally felt like getting out of the house, getting some ice cream at this place called Twisty Treats, and going to a beautiful kind of nature preserve and going and sitting by a koi pond in the sun. And it's in those moments where you feel like life is coming back and you can forgive yourself for any of the self flagellation about wishing that you'd get over it or wishing that it wasn't happening or all of those thoughts that naturally run through the mind that we sometimes engage in and sometimes are better at just observing. We can let all that go. We live in a world today more and more that is seeing the necessity for whole health living. So you embrace whatever grief work is right for you, in whatever time, whatever space. Find ways to release the anger in a supportive way. Anger rituals are very powerful. Find whatever supportive way you can to release some of the ideas about bargaining. Journaling to clear those thoughts is very effective. Be at peace with the moments where acceptance sets in and don't self-flagellate to think that you should continue punishing yourself and feeling bad due to the loss of whatever you're experiencing. Reach out, allow yourself to receive, ask, be honest with how you feel. And anybody that tries intentionally or unintentionally to get you past it or move you out of where you are because it's uncomfortable for them isn't somebody that belongs in your inner circle. You can let those relationships go. The conscious, loving, kind, rock star kind of relationships, they'll be there. And they won't ask you to be any different than who you are. They don't have expectations about who you should be. And with that, I want to ask you a final question and ask, what is something that you're grieving this year? I can tell you for me, it's been many things. One in particular, for various reasons, is grieving the ability to travel. I have had to cancel plans that I've had because it's not wise earlier in the year, much less wise than now. Had to cancel the Hawaii Everything's Relational retreat. I was not able to have my parents come visit that they usually do earlier in the year. It's been a very sad and frustrating thing. So I share that with you to let you know we're all fucking human and we all grieve something, even if it's not a big thing or the right thing or an obvious thing. So, what do you get to forgive yourself for not allowing yourself to grieve in 2020? That's unique to this year. Share in the comments. Love to hear your story. I'll see you next week.